Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another edition of the show. Trek Wednesday, stardate 2016.020 at 22:05 Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot to discuss tonight. But before we get into that, let me introduce our panel here tonight. Starting with our Chief Logistics Officer, Captain TimberWolf. Lead us off with a good howl, sir. Somebody's happy about something. Something's coming up here. We have our Chief Instructor, TeacherKirby.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
We have our Chief Emergency Role-Playing Hologram, Zeph from ZEFilms.
Good evening.
We have our Chief Anti-Torpedo and full of cheese. We need more wine for his celebration, Captain S.O.B.
Just get rid of Twarps. Remove him from the game, please. Hello.
Now, after I beat him up, we'll need our Chief Ironic Medic to patch him back up. Captain MK, welcome back, sir.
I'm still working on myself, man. You better go easy on SOB.
Physician, heal thyself, and take your time, because, SOB, there's not much left to mess up anyway, so.
Ooh.
And our Chief Intelligence Officer back from scouting out some... Wait. You've been on the internet again, haven't you? Haven't you?
No way.
Decided to turn over a new leaf.
Are you going to be a happy kitten?
Yeah, I'm giving up the grumpy cat and going with cute kitten now. I actually tried to get some comments from the dev in regards to this, but they haven't gotten back to me yet.
I see you got nerfed.
Oh, yes, yeah. We're going to talk about the nurse later on, but jumping straight into the show here, please. I don't know, what should I be focusing on here? I mean, we obviously have several different things going on, plus the patch notes have been released. Some good, some bad, some... I don't know what. We'd like to reach out to Dev for this one. We have been for a while, but they haven't responded back to us yet. So we're just going to carry on as it is right now with the information that we have before us.
I think the problem is not we're not fluffy enough. We don't have enough fluff in our show. We need to be more lighthearted. We don't need to get so in-depth about things. We don't need to be so technical. Just let's be, I don't know what the word is, stupid. I think that will probably... Yeah, that I think that might get us some better results.
That sounds kind of boring.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? In any case, yes, Cam, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Let's see if we can bring you back in here real quick.
Okay, just gonna do a quick test. Is this a little bit better?
Wouldn't be the show without technical issues.
Oh, we gotta have a little bit here and there, right? I mean, after all, yeah.
Apparently we're all
I honestly
badly.
wouldn't feel at home if something didn't break. It just wouldn't be right. It would scare me, like a bad omen.
Hey, where the entire thing
Astro says, yeah. A few people are saying we're all breaking up.
Final mic check. Is this better for everybody? Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
At least the rest...
Mic check.
I can hear the rest of the panel members just fine, so there's that.
This is true.
I blame Odin.
Well, you can always blame me. I mean, after all, I'm the guy who hacks, so. In any case, we're good. Continuing on. Our old buddy Luke Critter here has put up some nice articles. One just fairly recent, but the first one I wanted to focus on was the retirement of the commendations and what's going to happen in the future. Anybody else have a chance to actually look at that?
No, but even without looking at it, I'm sure it's going to raise a bunch of salt.
I did read something that said that commendations are basically going the same way that the Lolo Nut Pearls and the autographed glossy photos of Q went, that they're going to be retired and there'll be a new annual thing.
Not my walnuts.
Every year.
Not anything but my walnuts.
Yeah, Yep.
He's rehashing that, but the good thing he's adding is he's mentioning what could be done to bring back the ships, and his ideas include add them individually to the dilithium store, add them as packages in the Zen store, such as the Ryzian set, the Breen set. So just ideas of how new players could have these ships, like the Ryzian set, sell it for, I don't know, 3,500 Zen.
No.
So I guess what we can derive from this, guys, also is if it doesn't happen, if this never happens, or if it doesn't happen in a timely manner, can we assume then that there is some behind-the-scenes restriction that's not allowing Cryptic to do it? In other words, if it makes no sense for them not to do it and they still don't do it, can we deduce there's a behind-the-scenes reason why or not?
I don't know. They
Very
have
good
put
question.
previous anniversary ships in the Lobby store, but I think it's a very good question, and it would be a wonderful question to ask a dev.
Yeah.
I think we'd have to phrase it correctly, better than I did, but that's maybe a question to ask is, like what can you tell us about which restrictions are being set and where? Like what does CBS say and where do you guys come in and where does it start and where does it end?
Yeah, because the perfect example is the Dyson Science Destroyer was a anniversary ship. It is now in the Lobby store.
Sure, but it's also a original Cryptic creation.
True.
And
Well, if I remember correctly,
and
so are
some-
the Ryzian ships.
Maybe, but the Breen stuff I think is derived at least. It's not entirely original.
Well, one is
The
completely
Belgrade is
CBS.
canon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Belgrade is canon. The others are probably derived.
I thought the others were derived from John Eves' drawings, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone will tell me if I am.
But he brought up that as far as bringing those ships back for sale, and he also has theorized that it could eventually go to the CC event and the Mirror event, but there's no details, so we just have to wait and see. But it does seem like something that they are doing more and more often. So he just simply raises the question, it's possible.
Well, again, like I'd just like to respectfully ask for this stuff to be added in some way, so these other folks that don't have this stuff don't have to feel so bad. Like the Kobali ship, especially for the healers. I was lucky enough to get it, but a lot of folks weren't, and a lot would love to see that back.
I think just toss them in the Dill store. I think the Dill store idea is pretty nice. Just like a few million Dill.
That's a Dill sink, and it's
We need.
Yeah, it's not like we don't need.
Did you say a few million, Dill?
Okay,
The
well,
elitist
like
would.
a million Dill. A million Dill
Don't-
per.
don't give
I
me
mean,
any ideas.
we just need a really good Dill drain to bring this market back down because it's just going to keep rising.
Yeah,
Well, you're
I'm
talking about
surprised.
Dill Drain for a starship that one-time purchase goes to all tunes. That's not a Dill sink. That's just
So,
laugh.
so make it maybe conditional so that a small amount of Dill does not unlock it for all tunes, but only for one. There's a
That
way
would
to
work.
balance the situation, and we, if we can look at it that way, so can they.
Well, we have offered to the devs to actually come on to the show and answer some of these questions and perhaps clarify some of their positions, but they haven't gotten back to us yet.
We'll be standing by while we wait for a response from them, though, on this. Meanwhile, I do see that there is something else here. Zeph, you put up a guide on how Canadians can actually go and buy Zen. Is this so?
Yes. So if your head is buried in the sand, and well, I guess unless you're in Canada, you wouldn't really hear about this. The Canadian dollar is doing shit. Right now, if you take out your credit card, open up the ARC to purchase Zen, $50 of Zen will cost you approximately $71 Canadian. So 50 US equals $71 Canadian. That's why I might not be able to make it to the Trek convention, because the tickets are $275 US, which equals almost $401 Canadian. So if you are
Ouch.
Canadian and you need Zen to purchase the shiny new ships like the upcoming T6 Odyssey, go to your local EB Game Store, Petro Canada, Walmart, Best Buy, anywhere that sells Perfect World Entertainment game cards. They come in $10, $20, $25, and I believe some places have $50 cards. Purchase the cards, $10 will be $10 Canadian. So if you purchase a $10 card, you will get 1,000 Zen. If you purchase $25 card, you will get 2,500 Zen. But yeah, with our Canadian dollar doing so shite right now, do yourself the favor, save yourself the money, go to a store, buy the Perfect World Entertainment cards, and keep some of that money in your pocket.
That's some wisdom, dude. I've always wondered, so I don't know if you could tell me, since you've dropped that on us, can you tell me now how to resolve a Canadian standoff?
Who has the bigger moose wins or loses.
Also, what happens when we riot is we start tipping garbage cans. Whoever gets tired and stops tipping garbage cans first loses.
Well, you have to account for the occasional slip and fall in maple syrup, so.
No, we have maple syrup to celebrate after.
So I did, this is actually really good advice for you Canadians out there who are listening, and I know there's quite a lot of us out there. I actually do the same thing myself. I go to the local GameStop in my local mall, and it's actually quite hilarious the first time I went in there and I asked them if they had any Perfect World Entertainment cards, and they kind of looked at me funny. It's like, what?
Sure, let me just blow a layer of dust off them first.
But one of the girls kind of like had this glazed over look on her face for a few minutes, and then oh yeah we do, and she pointed them out to me. So I grabbed a couple of the $10 cards and walked up to the counter, and the girl at the counter was this young thing, teenager, kind of a cross between a hipster and a goth, and this nerdy look on her. It's really strange how the kids look these days. And she kind of looks at the card and she's like, well, what do you use these for? And I kind of looked at her and said, you know what, I don't think you're nerdy enough. And then she gives me this really hipster, dirty look, through her fake glasses, because, they have these horn-rimmed glasses that don't actually have a prescription, whatever that is. And it's like, me, not nerd enough? Like, okay, fine. It's for...
Trust me, not nerd enough.
Star Trek Online. And then she's like, oh, really? And, at that point, I had won the internet. So, but yeah, I digress. These are really, really good. You'll save yourself a lot of money getting these cards if you want to buy Zen. If you want to buy Zen.
It's too bad you can't turn Zen back into Canadian money, or you could make it steel.
Something like that. Well, speaking of money and monetary funds and having a bunch of resources, I believe SOB brought up a point here about caps, raising the caps, especially considering that they had the exchange limit raised fairly recently.
Yeah.
What do you think about having the personal accounts
it was raised and then dropped a little. I guess they found some medium or something.
What I think, the first and foremost, the account bank. The fact that we're still sitting at 500 million, that is just why. That should be a few billion, honestly. At least $1 billion.
Yeah, I agree. That should be at least $1 billion. Preferably, I personally think because it's shared by more than one toon, that the cap on the account bank should be higher than what a toon can carry, so that you can actually move funds around.
Here's a great reason. Why not? Quality of life. It would make things easier.
Exactly.
But isn't this like a first STO problem where you have these super ultra rich going in and making all this money, then they have so much money that they can't store it anymore. Like, what's the real percentage of people that this affects?
That's true, but it's still nice. It's one of those would-be nice things. I mean, you're right. It is kind of like the space-rich one. And I'm not space-rich at all, but I know a ton of people that would be really happy if you said the account bank limit was going to be increased, for instance.
Next up, your personal EC cap on each character. I don't think $1 billion's enough anymore.
You realize that I'm laughing so damn hard right now that to try to sympathize.
Yeah, so am I.
He does have a point.
I'm playing my violin a little bit.
Laugh all you want, but these ships that are going for as much as they're going for, if you really want one, you got to wheel and deal for it. You got to buy and sell. If you really want those high-value ships, even if you're not space-rich yourself, but somehow you could scrape that much together, it'd be nice to have a larger personal stash available.
We have a specific ship, specifically the Anorax right now, is already at the $1 billion cap.
Yep.
I'm just wondering how long it is until we see someone wanting to do just a trade for over $1 billion worth of keys for it.
You know what? Zer just put out a good idea right now. Maybe if you have any of your overflow for your own personal cap, go into your account bank. And that way you're not losing it. Like I did before a long time ago when I actually had made a lot of money. And I realized, oh crap, I'm not a lifetime sub. I just lost a whole crap ton of money. Wow. So it'd be nice if it actually overflowed into your account bank. If it went over your cap.
That would be awesome.
It'll do that even if you are lifetime.
But yeah, just even if you're lifetime, yes. But I understand that. The principle of the whole thing is that we shouldn't have to deal with such an arbitrarily low cap in relation to the amount of things that are selling for such a high amount.
Indeed.
Basically my point. I mean, yeah, world's smallest violin, etc., etc. I'll never see that amount of EC in the game ever. But I try not to think of just the things that would matter to me. I try to think of the things that would matter to more than just me, more people. And yeah, some of those high value ships are climbing such that you really need to do some deals to be able to afford them, and so that personal limit would help a lot.
And then the final thing I want to say for caps is actually the fleet credit cap. Currently, you're capped at 10 million fleet credits. For most, that's, you're never going to get near it. But it's just for people that are wanting to dump dill into multiple projects for fleet creds to help fleets. It's a pain to have that wasted and not get anything out of it.
Well, I mean, for fleet leaders too, because fleet leaders often put in a large amount of large donations in order to eventually end up recycling the credits. But the more that you can build up so that you can put back in, or and get things, it's helpful.
Pretty much the low limits are just forcing the people to shuffle stuff around. I mean, it's not like anyone can't get around these limits. People do all the time. But you're being forced to shuffle stuff around in kind of a tedious manner. And, it'd be nice to not have to do that. I could see that. Like I said, it doesn't personally affect me in the slightest. I'm poor as hell. But I could see this mattering to some people.
Especially if people are trying to donate to, like, Gamma fleets. There's a bunch of Gamma fleets out there, and what are they going to get in return? Well, if they're at the fleet credit cap after the third fleet, then what gives? What's their incentive to keep donating and filling in those fleet projects?
Don't forget, that's an exploit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely forgot. I'm not supposed to broadcast exploits of how to actually donate to Gamma fleets so that you could get a whole bunch of credits in return. I'm sorry.
How dare you think of your members?
Well, I am a busted exploit. By the way, TimberWolf, did you fill out that paperwork and submit it again, please?
Already submitted, sir.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else we need to bring up?
Caps? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wondered.
Caps. We have offered the devs a chance to come in and answer some questions about these caps. Perhaps they could give us some clarification and give us their point of view. We have yet to hear back from them.
I'm sure we'll hear back from them sometime soon, probably in about a couple months or so. Teacher, you were saying something.
Well, I was actually wondering if the caps are actually arbitrary, because somebody mentioned that they seem like an arbitrary number, and I was going to say that would be a great question to ask a dev, if it's arbitrary or if there's some kind of memory issue that made them choose those numbers, or something like that.
This is true. Oh, nice one, Jay. Are we ever going to have fleet roster holding contributions to include Armada contributions? We actually brought that up on the show
They should
a
have from
couple
the
months
start.
ago.
They should have from the very start. I don't understand why they don't. They absolutely should. It's contributing to a fleet.
Exactly. We brought this up on the show a couple months ago, and it actually was one of the questions that we submitted to the devs to see if we can get a dev interview here, but we have yet to hear back from them on that. So, moving on to something that actually was just discussed on Reddit today, on the use, or in some cases, the overuse of special effects during combat. Now, there's a nice Reddit thread that you'll see in the show notes about this, and we actually did have one of the devs chime in on this here as well. And Bordicus, brought up some very good points with it, and to which I actually credited him for, and went on the record and crediting him for that. I also brought up the point of going in the other extreme, where you have so much special effects going on that the information that you could have gleaned from most of them is lost by at least one or two effects that are not just overbearing, but completely blinding your senses to the point that you get no useful data from it at all. Yes, we are looking at you, Destabilized Resonance Beam, as being the prime contributor to this.
Never go full JJ.
Oh, no, they went full JJ and then some. They told JJ, step down, son. This is how we really do this thing.
The lens flares. The lens flares are blinding.
That reminds me, if you ever catch me getting crazy and start putting lens flares in any of my videos, just cut me off and let me go. All right?
We will pull your isolinear chips
We'll
out and we will crush
deactivate
them.
you.
Because something done goofed and I got corrupt, and yeah, no.
We'd have to call on our chief engineer to fix you, and right now he's vacationing with the pack lead somewhere. But yes, so we're going to include the link in the thread. Everybody's going to jump in and discuss it, give their opinions on it, because I'm sure, mind you, leave constructive feedback and constructive criticism, because this is something that they should be able to read, understand, and see exactly what the players are saying about this.
Yeah,
And let's be real.
Even if you got a point, if you're being a jerk, no one's gonna listen to you.
So we'll bring it up, we'll be salient, we'll be focused, and we'll stick to the facts. Moving right along, I believe that we have some nice and interesting videos that have come up here for 2016. Oh,
Indeed, we do.
oh
Yeah,
yes.
so we did a bunch of videos last week for the start of 2016, but we have a few more, and the very first one I'm going to point out, Alan here from ZEFilms made a video of the Hestia class. Could you tell us a little bit about it, please, Alan?
Yeah, so I'm continuing my... It's now officially called the Fresh Out of Space Stock series. So this week is the Hestia class. I thought I'd show it off because it's one of the most prettiest ships that have been released of the T6 class, in my opinion. Other people might not agree, but yeah, I just wanted to give it its whatchamacallit. I can't even words. Its spotlight. Really just make it look like fucking awesome and good. So I'm going to continue this series. Next one might be a Manicore, who knows? But
That's a threat.
yeah.
It better be a
And,
promise.
Yeah, I might be doing one for social zones, showing off the different social zones.
Oh,
In,
please
Star
just
Trek
don't
Online.
enable chat. Just don't enable chat. You'll be
Oh
fine.
God, no.
No, it's a good film, and I think that you put in the Voyager music in the background of this video.
Yeah, I use the Voyager theme. I thought it was fitting because the Hestia is kind of based, well, not kind of, it's based off the Prometheus, and we first and only see the Prometheus in Voyager. So I thought it'd be fitting to use the Voyager theme for that, which is why I also used last week. I used the Deep Space Nine theme for the Valiant class.
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
So
Wait,
yeah.
doesn't the
Because a bunch of
Prometheus
cadets
actually
got
show
themselves
up
blown up.
Doesn't the
Sorry.
Prometheus also show up in Enterprise during that one episode?
You mean the future episode with the Enterprise J and all, and the Dauntless class that doesn't exist and isn't a Starfleet class, etc.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I think it's one of the ships that I'm not sure
I
though.
believe you are correct, and I believe it does show up in that scene. Like I said, though, there's a lot of other improbable ships that do too. So
Yeah, all right. Loot Critter says yes, it does. So yeah, it's only on screen for like a fraction of a second. So blink and you miss it. But you're right. The Dauntless is there as well, which, like you said, isn't even a start.
literally,
fleet.
there's no canon explanation that could remotely make sense for that.
We just threw it in there. Enjoy.
Cool with that. R2D2 is in one of the. I think he's in the first contact battle scene at the very beginning. Oh no, it's the Millennium Falcon. I think it's the Falcon.
Actually, R2D2 is in both the first JJ Trek movies.
That I remember.
Yeah, he's in both of them.
I agree with Birkenbile. Drugs. Lots of them.
Yep.
Moving on to the video
Only thing that
series
makes
here.
sense.
Moving on.
All right. Next video is one from TimberWolf. You did a budget build on the Tier 6 Presidio. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, it was actually kind of a request from the viewers. You know, a lot of people show off tactical tunes, and that's pretty much all they do for budget builds. Some people requested engineering builds from an engineering tune. So I picked out the Presidio on my engineer, who I'm just now working on. And so you've got access to Nadion Inversion. You've got access to Miracle Worker, Rotate Shield Frequencies as standard abilities. And went with that with a budget phaser build, which is a lot easier than most people think. From everything old is new, you can get Mark 11 phasers that have Crit Severity 2 mods on them. And those are not bound to you when you pick them up. So, side note, when you're doing that mission, if you've got enough for your build, you can post those on the exchange. And they go for a decent amount. But posted that, and I'm not used to carriers. I'm just used to using a broadside vessel, and that did 25k using some old PvP tricks that a few people from TeamSpeak told me about. So it's not bad, and I'm thinking with the right upgrades, that build would actually be very good for advanced content.
Very interesting. So check out that video. The link for that is going to be included in the show notes. Now, some other videos you did in the past few days. This time you were collaborating with Hersey from My Balkan Gaming, and this is not Star Trek Online related, but it is related to Star Trek. Could you tell us something about that, please?
Well, yeah, it's Star Trek Timelines. I started broadcasting that the moment it came out, and few days afterwards, I saw that Hersey had put out his first look at the game.
Traitor.
So I talked to him on Twitter a little bit about it. He enjoys the game as well. He likes what they're doing with it. And after probably about 20-30 minutes, we came to an agreement that we were going to cross-promote each other. So we are cross-promoting Star Trek Timelines between our two channels to give different perspectives to the community. It's actually been really nice. A lot of people have positive feedback for it. A few people have complained about bugs, and we should complain and pick it. I'm like, yeah, why don't you come back to the game that has bugs from 5 years ago still in it? complaining really hasn't helped this one, has it? The answer is no, not all the time.
They've
Well,
got
at
the
least
lens released, so that's
well,
nice.
at least this Star Trek game I can get in. This one that you're talking about, I installed, and it goes up to where there's the red nebula at the beginning, and nothing. You just sit there, no controls. All you can do is zoom in, zoom out, move the camera around your ship. Nothing. I've uninstalled, installed that thing over 10 times, cleared the cache, nothing. So I gave up. I left a bad review because I don't have time for that crap.
Well, like I've been telling people, it just came out within the past week or so. They're having issues with some of the various mobile devices. They're trying to get that fixed.
I'm surprised it took so long to come out because they were talking a huge game about it at STLV last year.
Yeah, and that's what was surprising about it as well. They just did started beta testing about 2 months ago. So it went from full beta testing to live in 2 months.
That is a compressed release schedule for sure. Someone got pressured.
Yeah, and I mean it's got some issues to it, and the problem is they're trying to get as much on the bug reports as possible because they already have it planned for future release. They're going to put it on PC, so you can play it on PC and then take it with you in mobile, and they've said other devices and consoles. I'm not sure what they mean by that.
I will say that the task of supporting the amount of devices that they're trying to support is huge. I would say it's a bigger technological challenge than STO faces supporting a bunch of different PC configurations because the mobile phones, mobile devices, things like that are really funny little beasts. And I'm just not surprised they're having tons of bugs. Like, it's probably not all on them. It's all on, carriers that don't let their Android devices update past a certain point and their library's out of date and things like that. Like, people are going to have to root their devices and things like that in some cases to get timelines working because it's just not going to be compatible with whatever device they have for some arcane reason. So yeah, even though these guys did talk a little smack on STO at STLV and I was there for that, I do feel kind of sorry for the technological challenges they are facing right now.
And it's been going on for a while now, and that's why whenever you issue a bug report for them, they want you to state what operating system you're using and what phone you're using, because there have been certain phone brands and iOS issues that are only on certain ones, whereas other devices are flawless.
That is why, and see, I am not a strong proponent of the walled garden, but that is why, at least some of the time, it is easier to support things within the Apple infrastructure because they lock everything down so hard that you're not playing with a bunch of different versions. It sucks, but there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Apple, another Canadian thing. Any Canadians that use Apple, everything is going up 17% in the App Store. So things that were $1.19 are going to be $1.39, and things that were $50 are going to be $69.99. Just FYI.
Ouch.
Apple has the capital.
Yeah.
If they wanted to show goodwill to Canadians and Aussies right now, they wouldn't change their prices. They've got the money.
Yeah, no, they very much have the I'm Rick James bitch attitude, and people will still pay for the shit, but
of course
whatever.
they will. But
I don't have an Apple. I have a Samsung S5. I'm happy.
I think we'll save this line of discussion for another show going on because it's relevant and people do need to know about this. Any other videos we should pay attention to, Chief Intelligence Officer?
Oh, there's a few more that I want to talk about. Our friend Snipey and his girlfriend, I think their channel's called Sarah Lee Videos, made a music video of sorts using the STO game engine. And it's called Shut Up and Give Me Whatever You Got. Oh, the link for that is also in the show notes. I had a quick look at that. That was a pretty interesting video there. It definitely deserves a few more views. And I also made a recent video myself. I've swapped things around a little bit and decided to build a tank, and with some help from my friends in the Agronauts, quite a bit of advice.
What are doing now anyway?
and some of the really uncool kids as well, but let's not get into that yet.
Ouch.
I turned my Cheshire into a tank, and the basic build for that can probably work for most of the other really good tanking ships, like the Resreth, for example, and the Quas and several others.
The Resreth
yeah.
is an amazing tank, actually.
Yeah, I still think the Cheshire is probably a better tank than the Resreth.
Absolutely, but the Cheshire is a lot harder to lay hands on right now.
True. Wasn't it down to like 450 mil or something around that?
It was
mark?
down to 485. Now, mind you, if you have a Resurreth,
Right under the old cap.
Yeah, if you have a Resurreth, you pretty much have a Cheshire. But
Absolutely.
if you missed it, or you want the trait, the Cheshire is still affordable. Ish. Somewhat.
Hashtag first word problems.
Yeah,
Right.
but the Resreth, if you bothered to go through the winter event, is even more affordable. So.
Right, but if you didn't for whatever reason, or you're a new player coming in, you missed out.
Goddamn right, Audi FTW.
So I've had quite a few people actually ask me for the build that I have on the Cheshire tank. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to port it over to the Resreth and make a video on it. So it's basically a 1-to-1 port. There's just a difference in the console layout, just a small one. The Resreth has one less tactical console and one extra engineering console. And I think
arguably making it a slightly better tank, if that's what you're shooting for.
I wouldn't say that. I think that's just a null point, actually.
With all the uni consoles that go into engineering slots anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Basically, you're losing just a little bit of aggro by dropping one of the attack consoles and gaining a little bit extra survivability. It's a moot point in any event, so I will be doing a video in regards to that tanking build. Again, this is not something I invented by myself. I wasn't the first person to come up with tanking builds, although I have ran off-tank builds for a long time. This is, again, something that the Agronauts helped me build. So I guess you could call it an Agronaut special. I will be posting that video hopefully very soon, whenever it's done. Also, Happy Mortal, our friend, did a video recently. I don't know if that was just released today or not, but he's been working on using demo record. Learning how to use demo record. So he did a quote-unquote low FX ISA. And what that is actually, it's not really low FX.
It's just disabling Michael Bay mode.
Basically, it's because it's a demo record, it doesn't have the UI. But what he did is he actually went in, and I'm pretty sure what he did was very manually labor intensive, but he disabled every single effects from like the power effects, the activation effects in that particular run, and basically made a video of it. An ISA run, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I really recommend you guys take a look at that.
Is there any articulation as to how he disabled the different effects?
There's a command that you can do within demo record, and if you use the Rachel Garrett tool, there's a separate a separate window that pops up within that little program that allows you to scroll through and disable things. But either way,
it does have a 10% chance of sending a piece of shrapnel into your head, though.
Both ways are very, 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 very time consuming, especially going through demo record itself. I believe, I can't remember which button you press. Is either F4 or F5, which brings up the FX debugger, and then you go through and you're literally going through this list of every single effects that is happening in the thing, right down to like if you're in ISA and the Borg cube or sphere is shooting a plasma torpedo turning off the graphics for that, it's very, very, very intensive. And with all these extra powers that we have from the command tree and then what you have in your bridge officer layout, all of those will pop up because they've been activated. So you got to go through all your bridge officer icon effects and turn those off. So it's a lot of work. So yeah, kudos to Happy for going through and disabling all that. Me personally, if I'm doing single ship shot and I need to get battle scene, I just don't activate any of my shit, and I just I just hope for the best. But whew.
Yeah, I don't even bother turning any of that off. I just do the show game UI equals 0 to turn off the fly-in messages, and I believe there's another one, show dev UI 0, to turn off some of the other different things. I'm not sure what that one does specifically, but otherwise I just leave it as it is. And the main reason for that is in the past I've gone and tried turning off different things like effects on shields and stuff like that. And it's annoying because sometimes they just re-enable themselves randomly.
Yeah. That's the other thing that I ran into is, especially when you're doing like a camera path, once you hit back and restart the playthrough of that file, those things that you've turned off, in my experience, have always turned back on. So I'm just like, I put my hands up. I'm like, you know what, I'm whatever. If graphics pop up, cool. I'll use trickery with the camera, and okay, I see a attack pattern beta symbol popping up from an NPC ship. I'm going to make sure the camera dips down and my subject that I'm focusing on is covering up that icon. So
It sounds like creative editing is a huge pain in the ass, though.
a little bit, but you kind of get used to it.
But kudos to Happy. I'm hoping to see some more stuff coming from him in the near future. I did discuss with some of the Agronauts making a really nice HSE video. That is yet to be. We haven't actually had a really good run.
I gotta get in on that then, because I always miss the Agronaut stuff, and I always hate that I do.
Oh, there are a couple in the works as we speak. So, yeah, between Happy and a couple other folks, there will be at least 2 coming out in the near future.
Missed the group Agronauts picture. I was so planning on just standing at the very, very end, way apart from everyone else and looking super depressed.
I'm actually kind of pleased with there seems to be a surge of people doing, or a surge of people doing videos now. So if you know anybody who's starting to get into videos and stuff and you want us to check it out, and definitely just you message us on our channels or leave a comment in the show notes, and we'll definitely have a look at it and go from there.
Yeah, we definitely like to showcase some of the things that other people are doing as well. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the show exists in the first place. We want to show how others work. So if you have any good videos out there that you want us to take a look at and say, you know what, other people should look at it too because it's actually good, please, like what ZEFilms said, drop a line. Heck, who knows, man? Zef might actually be doing something later on with it. Actually, come to think about it, isn't it almost that time where you and TimberWolf are going to do something about some sort of contest for either best film or best production of something coming up? I mean, February's right around the corner.
Foundry thing again.
Yeah.
We haven't squared away the details exactly just yet, but we did. We shot a couple of messages back and forth a couple of days ago about it.
Yeah, we're working on hammering out the details. We're basically rehashing our Foundry challenge because we know a lot more is coming out this year. A lot has been slated. So we are wanting to bring that back, except this time I know we gave people a very small window. The window for the next event is going to be 3 months. We figure that's probably going to be more than enough time to work on a project that's already started, or at least get an idea of what you can work on for the third one.
And then we need to give ourselves a month to play through them, because Timber and I are kind of turning up production a little bit on our respective channels. Like, I'm going to try and do a cinematic video once a week, which is a little bit of a chore in itself. Like, it takes a good... Well, yeah, it's actually... I've gotten the time down to about 5 hours tops in one night.
And I need to get with you so I can hire you for a personal project as well.
I will cost a lockbox ship.
Okay. If
All
that's
right.
what it takes.
Well, this is the official
It's a
head
joke.
start for anybody who wants to do any of the Foundry contests. Get cracking.
Yeah, even though we haven't officially announced it, if you're a Foundry author and know somebody who's a Foundry author and they pound out really awesome stories, tell them to hop on it. I know one of the one prize that we can definitely talk about. I think we're going to be doing the trailer again.
Yes. The other thing was we're going to offer lockbox keys. I've got 20 keys
Great.
to give the winner as well as the trailer that Zeph is going to be making. So
I'll throw in something as well with it. I don't know what yet, but it'll be something decent.
And it's not so much because you won the contest. It's more that you're bringing out such great content for the players that we want to reward your efforts for actually going through and making it. That's the big thing as far as the reward. You're going through a lot in the Foundry to make these things work, to put out these stories. We want to reward that effort in some way.
Yeah, we're trying to bring this spot. Well, I know there's a podcast that focuses on the Foundry, and there's been a little bit of a push for going to Foundry missions lately, but we want to use our channels a little bit to help bring more people to the other Foundry missions. And I don't know if the trailer that I made for our last winner has helped him at all, but hopefully it does. And hopefully us doing the live playthrough on Twitch did as well. So
I know
That's interesting.
I know it's helped him, and I do know that his sequel to the mission that won is due out in a couple of months, from what he said.
Yeah, he was pushing for, was it mid or late February?
Yeah, though I'm probably going to give him till March, just be on the safe side, because I'm not too sure what's going on with that one. The current title is Mirror Ball.
Yes.
What was the name of that Foundry podcast?
The Foundry Roundtable. I checked out a
Yeah.
couple of their episodes.
Yes, Foundry Roundtable. Thank you very much. That kind of confuses me because I read this article on one of these MMO, I think was it MMO Champion, whatever, web magazine, and they said there was only one STO podcast. So that.
Oh, I saw that too. Yeah, and I laughed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on.
But in this case, I think we should do some possibly some cross promotion, because if this website can't actually bother to do any proper research to figure out that there's actually more than one STO podcast, maybe we should help each other out and get in contact with the roundtable guys. Maybe we can do some cross promotion, and possibly it could help out your little contest there.
Yeah, I thought this was supposed to be about the community, not one specific thing. But that's
Wait,
just...
hold on a second. So you mean Tribbles and Ecstasy, the Foundry Roundtable, what was the other one? There was a joke one out there for Shut Up Wesley. And then there was one that does kind of like a Klingon soap opera. Those aren't podcasts? Those aren't?
Nope, not even the show isn't a podcast. There's only one STO podcast. All the others are gone, apparently.
GNT,
the
too.
GNT, right?
Yeah, GNT show.
GNT. GNT is more of a Star Trek podcast, but they do talk about STO.
Actually,
but still, they're a
there's
podcast, though.
There's one other, hold on, I need to find up the name here now that we're on the topic of podcasts, but it's a Trek YouTube channel, and I actually kind of reached out to them and said, hey, what you guys are doing is pretty kick-ass, and funny enough, Sarcasm, the guy who runs it is actually located in London, Ontario. Trek Yards. They've started doing... they usually only focus on like ships in general, canon in the Star Trek universe, but they've started to focus more on Star Trek Online, and I believe they also have a video that they're going to be doing, kind of like their own like little review of the Manticore class coming up soon. But they just did the Emissary class, and then before that they did the Avenger class. So it's two guys, older guy and a younger guy, who do the show. Pretty interesting. Check them out. Trek Yards. Make sure I toss that up into the notes too. But they've given me permission to post my videos on their Facebook page, which is kind of kick-ass.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Actually, yes, I did see the episode where they did the Avenger, and I actually had to go on and then do a big comment on the comments of that particular video, because obviously they're not really familiar with the game. They're actually just reviewing it by looking at pictures of the ship itself. And here's another idea for a collab. Maybe we'll talk about this a little in detail later, Alan. But what we can do is, if they want to be looking at STO ships, what we can do is make them a high-res orbit around the ship. Like, we can do a demo record and have the the camera view orbit around the ship and make it into a loop GIF for them.
Yeah, or even like we can just render it out and then give them like a Dropbox so they can put it into their actual show if they want.
That's actually a pretty good idea. More collab we can do with this community to help each other out. The better. I mean, we started out the STO Continuum a while back, and now we have quite a lot of streamers and YouTube channels working with us under the Continuum umbrella, and it's growing every day. And one thing I'm proud of is that we actually all do help each other out and work together, unlike another initiative.
That's not. Yeah. We'll just leave that there for right now on that one there. Only because I want to save the full Cisco for something worthy of full Cisco.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. By the way, Alan, it seems that Odin is starting to become interested in demo record as well. He was asking me a couple questions last night.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was a complete noob, and after I watched both videos on the demo record tutorials, and I still had a couple things. I mean, I got the command line. Everything is great for it. I can do that, but it's more of an artistic style, like how I manipulate some of these things and how do I try and smooth out the transitions while changing the viewing angle. So I'm definitely going to be picking both of your brains later on.
Wait, going back real quick to Trek Yards, weren't they the guys that interviewed Andy Probert about the Galaxy X design? Was that Trek Yards?
I believe so, and which is
So
one of the things
they were the ones that witnessed Andy Probert say, "What the fuck is that?" in relation to the Galaxy X. If that's who that is, those guys are already legend.
Oh man, look, I would love to do a collab with them just because we could go over the engineering of some of the ships.
I would love to be involved in that just because of who they are.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be completely awesome.
That was one of the best moments I've ever seen in any Trek-related podcast ever, is just Andy Probert absolutely aghast at what they had done to his design.
I'm going to have to look this up now.
Here is all the engineering and description that went into why the galaxy is shaped the way it is. And then here's how you toss it all out the window to try and look cool and badass on the show.
Oh, dude, my sides are in serious orbit. It for anyone that has not seen that specific one, I'm going to try to get the link for it, and we'll stick it in the show notes as well. It's one of the best, because he's so... You would expect someone as important to Trek as Andy Probert to be kind of a little bit more restrained. Absolutely not. He lets everyone watching know exactly how he feels.
Well, hold on. Not just segueing back into what we had for the notes here. Now that we actually have the next generation up, because he got keys, and now we talked about ships. Didn't SOB also had a video up on what he did with his ship? Didn't he do one?
Oh, yes. I did a video with my Science Anorax. I've got it set up as an aggro tank, and it has surprised me. It's doing quite well. Until it lags out.
Does that mean that you're going to be... Well, obviously it lags out, but does that mean that you're going to be a full agronaut now?
I believe I am.
You just have.
Wait,
Wait, it's not like he doesn't have enough people mad at him. That's one of the qualifications.
Well,
wait.
it's just fun to go in and ruin reciprocity builds, when you're pulling 90% of the thread of the map.
Come on, Cam, get mad.
I don't have to get mad. I have my own threat tank now.
That's true. You can ruin
So-
other people's reciprocity now.
So that means I actually have to trust SOB with the life of my ship.
Trust me. with the
Actually, you see, I have the adding your condoffs for the plus threat gen with Delta. So when you're in my runs, I'm just going to put the Delta onto you, so you get the extra threat gen. I can't have Torps in my runs.
with 3 Arakakans or whatever they're called, the APD threat boosters. Those bastards.
Oh, I'm just gonna, yeah, no.
Still one of my favorite pug trolls I've ever read about is APD and 3 of those stuffs. Just get everything mad at a certain other person in your pug. Done and done.
Well, speaking of pugging stuff, now that it's so easy to more or less pug pretty much all of the Borg STFs, even having some people running a pug HSC and winning it out in a decent amount of time,
Yep, I've seen that now.
isn't it time that most of the Borg SCFs that do not have an elite version have an elite version?
I know we've discussed this before, Odin, but I still miss it.
Well, not
We
only,
have. Yep.
not only have we brought this up for months, but other people are bringing it up now for different reasons, and they're all valid reasons.
And
So
we're
why
seeing,
we should have
we're seeing
it?
silence is the concerning thing. We're not seeing, well, guys, we're having some technical issues, but we hope to have them out in such amount of time. No. We're seeing radio silence.
I mean, didn't I see one from Rami Starchaser on Twitter saying that since there's no elite Borg STFs, you can't get the adapted Mako gear as far as the armor? Wasn't that on there as well?
You can.
No, not the
You
not
can
the
get the
adapted
gear.
You can't get
What
the
it
You
is-
accolades.
can get the gear. You can't get the accolade, which means you can't unlock the costume.
Yeah,
The
I knew it had
final
something to do with that.
Yeah, this is something I actually discussed with Gecko almost a year ago. And when I talked to him about it, he was surprised that there was even a thing. He didn't even know about it back then. I don't know how much if he was actually being sincere and didn't know about it, or if he was just, blowing smoke up my rear end. But we've been talking about this for a very long time, and you know what? The devs are actually welcome to come onto the show and talk about this with us. We've actually requested that, but we still haven't heard anything back from them.
Now,
But yeah,
hold on. Chief Logistics Officer, did you fill out the proper paperwork for this?
Much.
Paperwork has been filled out. It is proper. It's in triplicate. It's been sent in triplicate.
Have we gotten any feedback yet or a response?
No, all comms channels are silent. Even the standard paper mail is silent. So, still looking, but
We're,
so far
we're
nothing.
broadcasting on all Federation frequencies, Captain.
Understood. Thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
what, snubbed, stonewalls, strung along, ignored?
They're
I
still
just feel
deciding.
bad, I feel bad
Stood
for
up. Yeah.
everyone that wants these elite queues back, and mostly for the lack of hope. We're getting we're getting nothing but silence. Therefore, we have no actual hope, no timeline, nothing to look forward to.
Maybe it's because my Holo Matrix isn't well known enough and it's clogging things up.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Ouch.
I would just very much enjoy some more elite queues that are actually, challenging. Just these ones that they keep pushing out that are just the challenge is just kill these within this time and then sit there.
Yep. Again,
That's not fun.
Again, we do want them back, but not at the cost of them just being shoveled out I think Counterpoint is a good example as to the like maybe Counterpoint's not perfect, but it is more well-rounded than some other STFs in that some healing is pretty useful, and some tactics are useful, and you're not just pew-pewing, because that kind of loses its luster after a while, guys. It really does, even if you're really good at it.
Teamwork mechanics, really? In an STO, STF?
I live off teamwork, but it's just not required. To be really honest, it's the most difficult thing about building a support build is the existential knowledge that no one really needs you.
Well, isn't there stuff
advanced.
isn't there stuff like UAA? Isn't there UAE version now? I mean, Undying Assault, we should have an elite version of that, right? Right?
Nope.
I think
Nope. No elite.
What happened to the elite version of that? I mean, it's a good map, but advanced is too easy now. I mean, they give us all the tools to handle elites, but
that would be a great question to ask a dev.
We have the builds. We absolutely have the builds and the gear and the skills, and we're even building a tank community and things like that. We have the ability to run much more difficult content than we're being given.
That's a good point there, Kirby. It would be a great question to ask the devs, and we've actually invited them to come on the show and answer some of these questions and respond, and maybe even give their point of view. But we still haven't heard anything from them yet.
Alan, Cam substitute Holomatrix is stuck again.
Oh, I don't think it's on a broken record. It's just actually looking at the logic of everything.
I think we
just repeating the same statement.
I think we're just really looking for some kind of response. Unusually enough.
I want to talk to Samson.
Something like
Fly
that.
to the moon like that, bitch. I was crazy.
There was one poster on that Reddit thread, though, asking about if there was any technical reason why any of the elites couldn't come back. And it was a Drummer Copa had this nice post, and I think it just pretty much was straight on to the point, where they are in favor of what Cryptic does, and they like what Cryptic does, and they understand Cryptic doesn't have the same budget or people like another MMO out there does. But
I think we all understand that.
We all understand that. We get that.
Them props. We give them props for what they are able to accomplish and things like that. But I think what people are saying is a valid point, that why not focus on the end game more, because that's where everything is. That's where everyone's stuck. So yeah, it's great that you guys are updating old content and things like that. It's polished. It's great. We appreciate the effort that goes into that. But God, sink some more budget into the endgame stuff where we all are.
Sounds like it would be a good question to ask a Dave.
Would be, wouldn't it?
Here's where you post the cartoon link. If we had one.
Something like that. But I mean, all right, now, Zeph, help me understand this.
Yeah.
They're advertising this game as what? Are they kind of advertising like a STO meets Second Life sort of thing? Or are they advertising this as a very action-oriented type of game with MMORPG elements in it?
Advertise?
Well, presented out to the community like stuff like MMO Champion or, when...
To be honest, I don't think they're doing much advertising at all, really. And when they do, it's... really the last piece of advertising that that's something that I would personally call advertising was their trailer for Season 11, but
well, the booth at STLV, but...
I'm broken. You broke me.
Sorry, man. But all right, if they wanted to do something, and here's just a wild idea off the top of my head. If they wanted to do something endgame, where they had both space and ground, and then do something with a more RPG audience, not catering to the hardcore gamer. They're catering more to the role players out there. People want to dive into the immersion of it.
And they really should cater to the hardcore Trek fan, because that's
how
a lot of people do get sucked into this game.
If they wanted to do a mass advertisement right now with a video, probably their best bet to do is do a video that combines all of the greatest elements of STO, bugs aside. Let's put the bugs and the lag aside for a minute. There's action for the people who want to blow shit up. There's the exploration aspect that people actually really want to do. Like I remember when the exploration zones were removed, there were a lot of people who were actually like, I actually kind of enjoyed doing those.
Well, there was a
then,
lot of RP around them too, and okay, I don't RP, but some people do.
yeah, our peers would actually use those to like.
Well, they can't anymore, Alan, because they're gone.
I know. So, well, not since then though. Now our peers are turning to the Foundry to make their own kind of sandbox. So your generic outpost on a planet that you can fly up to, beam down, and tell your story.
STO has some good strengths in that regard. I mean, they have. Think about this. Like when I talk about STO to my friends that like Star Trek but do not play video games, a lot of the times I tell them, guys, this is not only is this the only Trek we actually get anymore. It's episodic, and you have characters from different series interacting in ways they never did on the show. It's win-win as far as story, and there is so much they could push in that regard that they just don't. There's decent content in STO, decent story content, and I feel it doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah, I think if I was to put my opinions aside, I think they're using the new T6 ships as something to try and draw in people. Oh my god, look at this awesome ship. Come in and play the game.
I kind of hope not, because...
Well, I don't see advertising for anything else. Like, I haven't seen one bit of advertising being like, hey, Temporal Cold War stuff. Like, yeah, we kind of see it for the community.
Again, they're making some of the same mistakes that, in my opinion, this may polarize some of the listeners here, but in my opinion, they're making some of the mistakes that JJ Trek made. Basically, they are shunning the dedicated fans of the property in interest of kind of trying to make a larger appeal. But really, the core group of people that have always played this game, the most dedicated people, most dedicated STO players, I should say, all seem to be very devout Star Trek fans in general, and I don't think they do enough advertising or positioning towards that segment. I really don't think so.
Oh, I bet you there is like a crap ton of hardcore Trekkies out there who don't even know about the game.
I certainly do, because I keep finding them, Alan, and I keep telling them, did you know there's like tons more Star Trek content that you haven't seen? You ever wanted to see whatever happened to the stupid parasites in Contagion? You ever wanted to see what happened to those? Dude, I could play an episode and show you. And I would love to. I've done it before for people, literally shown them, hey, this is the continuation of that storyline. Or you remember that Voyager episode you liked where Kim died because you don't like Kim.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Exactly, and I would love to do that more often. But honestly, I would also love to see Cryptic make advertisements in that vein, saying, "Hey, hardcore Star Trek fans, how would you like to see some conclusions to some of your or some continuations to some of your favorite storylines?" They don't push that enough. The fact that even happens in STO, I bet you a lot of non-STO players are not aware of. Like, holy crap, that TNG episode where this and this happened, that gets a reference? That's amazing. I bet they'd get more players if they would simply do something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly why they won't do it. And this is going to sound really bizarre, maybe even ironic.
Oh, I think I know where you're headed.
And double facepalm worthy, but the reason why they don't actually advertise more is because they don't want to. They don't want to pull more people than they already have. Of course, a few more people here and there is good, but if they get a huge influx of people getting into the game, it'll probably bring the game server to its knees.
Well, I don't think it's just a capacity issue. I think that the if they advertise more, the type of player that they might attract is not what they're really marketing towards. Because yeah, we gotta say it, you and I can kind of accept it. They are marketing more towards the casual fan, and your casual fan really isn't the hardcore Trek fan. I don't think there's much crossover there, because if you're a hardcore Trek fan, you're probably also going to be pretty hardcore for this game, and they make the most money off the casual players.
I don't think that's true. I think they make money. No, that's a myth that, when you say they make, money, or one type of group of players is, where they get most of their money. I think that's just, it's not something we can actually quantify or qualify.
I agree with that. I don't think there's any way to actually, other than if you're cryptic and you have the metrics, there's no way you can know. But I don't know. I know a lot of people that have, logged in, thrown a couple of bucks at the game, and quit. And that's actually a fairly lucrative situation for Cryptic, where they've spent some money, but they no longer play the game.
Well,
they don't care that they've lost. In the short term, they don't care that they've lost the subscriber.
Speaking of
I just want to I just want to go back to the what we were actually originally talking about here, the start of this conversation, which is the accolades, the elite accolades, and the unlocks for the third set of armor visuals. I'm going to say something, you guys are going to probably be upset about this, but you should probably consider those as deprecated. Those were limited time, and it's not going to be possible to get those anymore. That's just cut content from now on, because
it's like the accolades for NWS at this point, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I would think it'd be fairly simple to tie the accolades to the advanced queues instead of elites, and just change the tooltips here and there, and there you go.
That would probably be the most reasonable thing to do at this point. Especially without any time frame on the elites.
Or back to SOB's point with dilithium, make it another thing that people can purchase with dilithium, put it in the Taylor store, or even those kind of unlocks, make it a project in order to be able to purchase those, like you do with when you first start a fleet. You don't have access to the Odyssey. Well, before you didn't have access to the Odyssey uniform right away, so maybe make that a project in there that people can use these resources that they're accumulating and then purchase it. And it's just something to put fleet credits towards, because people are apparently stocking up on them, and dilithium and fleet credits and fleet marks and all that stuff. So
with the rate this is going, I think we're going to be over 300 dil per zen within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
If not 2 to 3 days. And you know what I was just saying, if I'm wrong, if there's a dev listening and I'm absolutely wrong, then you know what, you're welcome to come onto the show and tell me that I'm wrong.
All right. Now you know what? We're gonna skip the weapons, buffs, and server performance analysis, as well as what we're gonna have in game. I'm just gonna give you a teaser because we're gonna push that to next week. Pretty much, one. What if Fire at Will was given the exact same treatment as Torpedo Spread it has in the game right now? 2. Whatever happened to the crits on plasma explosions now that they're actually working with all energy weapons? And 3, Ox the Bat. Why is there a sudden resurgence of Ox the Bat on builds? I know, Sarcasm Detector, you would love to tackle that.
Well, I actually want to quickly answer first. The resurgence of Ox the Bat is to make Cam grumpier. And for 2, as someone that has, the plasma consoles on many builds, those crits should not return.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. Those crits need to come back.
I mean, with the amount of power that's going into these plasma explosion consoles right now, you're going to have the equivalent of a high yield 1 happening at the frequency that they do on a regular map, whether it be ISA on a short run, you're going to have multitudes of these things exploding on all of the ships around you. You know, a pointless high yield one hitting all these targets at the same time, doing over 100k worth of damage a hit. And you're telling me...
We use Torp Spread now. We use Torp Spread.
No. Torp Spread got nerfed, man. Don't worry about it. It's gone. Don't worry about it. It's gone.
Well, just look. 10 to 15k per embassy console on a high-end run for attack is insane. I mean, if they really want to put crits back on them, okay.
I'm just holding them to what they originally said they would.
Indeed.
Yep.
The crits were intended. They said they were taking them away temporarily. They need to stick with their word and bring them back.
I gilded those consoles based on the original design intent.
Well, it wasn't just the original design intent. It's what was stated twice over after the changes. So it wasn't just the first time around, oh, we need to change it just for balance. And if they said they were changing just for balance, that's fine. But twice over...
I would just like to see more accountability than I'm seeing now. Like, we were seeing quite a bit. We were seeing a lot of dev communication. Everything was happy. Everything was great. And they have lapsed. I don't know if everyone feels this way, but we'd like to see...
No, I agree.
We'd like to see some more of the spirit we saw even just a few short months ago, where they were being more engaged with the community and things like that. And we're not seeing that anymore. We're seeing a lot of radio silence, and that's unfortunate. It's just not. It's not healthy for the community. It's not healthy for the devs. It's not healthy for the game.
Well, yeah, in the defense, they are working, like the patch notes right now. They say they're working on server infrastructure for all games, including Star Trek Online. So hopefully we won't see that really bad wiring job that put poor ZEFilms into a huge feedback loop.
Alan He's handling camera right now.
There are data center technicians everywhere that were crying over that picture.
Oh, dude, seriously, I've had hands in a DC, and I shed a few tears at that for sure. That looked, you put some marinara sauce on that, and you got yourself a nice spaghetti dinner.
I feel bad for the tech who gets the service ticket that says, please trace cable from port 43 of this Cisco ASA 5505 to this brocade firewall thing on port 23, and it's 4 racks over.
Better yet,
and then looking at that rat's nest.
I have the 3 worst words you'll ever see in a ticket for that rack. Re-rack and dress.
No. I think cable trace would be the worst word.
Re-rack and dress? That whole rack?
I would rather re-rack it.
Well, yeah, because you're starting fresh, but still, I mean, I can tone out one line, and that won't take me that much long. That won't take me that long. But looking at that would compel me to have to do like the most OCD job.
All right, boys.
I would light a cigarette, break the lighter, and then throw the cigarette on the ground and just walk away.
All right, bring it back. Bring it back.
Triggered. Come at me, CBS.
Deep breath, Alan. Deep breath. Let's bring it back. We're coming back to you guys. All right, we're back.
Just a quick note here, Odin, in regards to FAW. FAW is really the only viable weapon enhancement for both cruisers and science ships. So nerfing FAW is a pretty much direct nerf to cruisers and science ships. Now, we all know that science ships don't sell, right? But
of course not.
But cruisers, all the different types of...
Sometimes they'll give us one, Cam, if we're patient.
Yeah, but cruisers, think about how many cruisers we get. If you look at the past couple of years, maybe 3/4, 75% of all the ship releases are cruisers or some type of cruiser. This is where they make their money off of it. And if you start nerfing the cruisers, I don't think it'll go well.
Now, mind you,
you're nerfing a revenue stream at that point, which is not something they're interested in.
Well, hold on a second now. I'm not asking for a nerf to fire at will per se. I'm just saying they get the exact same treatment as Torpedo Spread, which is the other major AoE ability in this game.
Yeah, I think it
Where-
was just to illustrate a point, not to suggest a plan of action.
Right. I mean, seriously, it would get the same treatment. But I would really say, for the sake of time, let's just table this discussion for next week, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of people out there in the audience, as well as people who are not in chat who would definitely love to join in the chat. And if there's a dev out there who would like to comment on this, you're more than welcome to show up on the show impromptu and state your thoughts and feelings on this.
10 p.m. Eastern Time every Wednesday.
Watch
Same
ZEFilms.
Ox to Batman time, same Ox to Batman channel.
Give
By
or
the way,
take
folks-
15 minutes.
By the way, folks, listen up. Class is in session. Let's go to the teacher's corner. Teacher Kirby, teach us a lesson.
Okay.
Yo, down with that whip, girl.
Did I hear
Seriously.
that whip? Come on. Okay. So this week it came up in the TeamSpeak. We were talking about somebody was working on their build, and we were talking about ways to improve your Crit H and Crit D. And so the SROs that you can get from the embassy came up. And so I actually found out when I went to record it, I was a little surprised, and good job, Cryptic. They actually finally fixed the tooltip error that has been plaguing these SROs since they came out. They are now correctly labeled. But you go to your embassy, and I show you where in the video, and you can pick up Superior Romulan Operatives, improve your crit chance and crit D. For your tactical bridge officers, if you are a Federation or KDF, and you can pick them up for as many bridge officers as you have tactical seats. They're relatively cheap. They were 80,000. They were 80,000 fleet credits and 17,000 dilithium. And like I said, they are correctly labeled. Make sure you get the blue male. And you can now go buy the tooltip. So yay.
Thank you very much, teacher, for that one. I wonder if anything will be done to address where they were mislabeled for the people that purchased them, including myself, who were looking at it and say, hey, this should be an SRO, right? And it's not.
Right, because it used to be that the purple male was labeled as SRO, and it is not. It's actually a plain Romulan operative. And the blue one was originally labeled as Romulan operative, but that one is the superior Romulan operative. So yeah, I would like to see something for those that mistakenly bought the wrong one based on that tooltip. But so far we haven't seen anything, because it was that way for a long while.
I would like to see feds get more options for SROs other than just TAC, but I have actually directly asked, like directly tweeted to a couple of devs in the past why that was so, and never gotten a response. So, meh.
Welcome to the
Wait,
show, buddy.
Yeah,
Hold
good.
on. You've asked for a reply from the devs that you haven't got a reply from them? Really?
Dude, that level of shock is gonna melt your face.
That's
I know,
incredible,
right?
man.
I'm just, like I said, and I'm not even angry. I suppose that I don't know if any of you share my feelings here. I suspect that some of you do, but I'm just really disappointed.
Well, I mean, they could be busy, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
they
could
have
be
their
busy.
schedule.
And all respect to folks that are dealing with holiday issues and things like that, but you know, we're coming up to the anniversary event, guys. School is back in session.
Yeah, it's been a busy 5 months.
It has been.
Yes, it has been a busy 5 months.
Cough.
Teacher, can you tell us what happened
Yes,
this week in Trek?
I can. So there's actually a couple things that were brought up. So the first one is so in the show, the Horta scenes for the original series episode, The Devil in the Darkness, were filmed apparently today in 1967, according to Memory Alpha Wiki. And on January 21st, the first Star Trek convention was held in New York City. and that was in the I believe in the 60s as well, if I remember rightly.
We
I
are
didn't note
also
it in there.
we are also missing one
Mm-hmm.
significant event, Kirby, today.
Well,
Today
also today,
today's the birthday
yes.
of Jackson DeForest Kelly.
Ah,
Oh.
yes, thank you. I forgot about that.
Very important day for that.
Yes, today's DeForest Kelly's birthday.
One of my
Also,
favorite
now,
actors of all time. Literally, Bones was one of the reasons why
yeah,
I started watching Star Trek.
he was awesome. Also today, well, also this week we had an announcement or a resurgence about this. Because of Martin Luther King Day, it was mentioned in a media post. We have the link in the show notes. There was an interview with Nichelle Nichols about her encounter with Martin Luther King and NAACP fundraiser back in the 60s during the filming of the first season. She was actually going to leave the show to go pursue Broadway aspirations and whatnot. He actually convinced her to stay on Star Trek because it was one of the few shows where people of color were portrayed as equals, and he felt that was really important, and he was very upset when she told him she was planning on leaving, and he actually convinced her to stay in the role of Lieutenant Uhura. So we have Martin Luther King to thank for Uhura staying on the show.
Yeah, one of his quotes was, "It's one of the few shows he'd actually let his children watch because of that fact, because it was a beacon of hope, not just for him and the current adults of that era, but also for the children of that era to see there is a brighter tomorrow."
Sure, that's one of the reasons
And
I tell people why I love Star Trek so much, and it's because it portrays. It's not necessarily a perfect utopian future, but it is an extrapolation of how we could do if we cared just a little bit more about each other and about the world and things like that. We could see a world that's more like Star Trek than like Star Wars. Nothing bad on Star Wars fans or anything like that, but compare the visions of the futures and tell me honestly, which one would you rather live in?
23rd century. But yeah, I mean, she even mentions Whoopi Goldberg told her that when she was 9 when TOS first came out, and she used to run into the living room and see it on the show and go, Mama, there's a black lady on TV and she ain't no maid. You know. So I mean, yeah, it influenced a lot of people, and it was very interesting to hear the interview.
Broke a lot of barriers. It wasn't just the color barrier, but portraying someone Russian in a positive light in the 60s was almost unheard of, and we had Chekhov.
Very true. Very, very true.
That was the height of basically the genesis of the Cold War, and yet we had someone on TV that was Russian and part of the main crew.
And it wasn't that long after World War II that we had our victory over in Japan, that we have a Japanese American who, ironically, had suffered internment.
Spent time in an internment
yes,
camp.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
You don't really get deeper irony than that.
Exactly. It was a good time.
It's always been a melting pot. It's always been a reflection of what I believe America is good at. I've always felt that America was always good at welcoming and incorporating other cultures, and that's what makes us so adaptable as Americans. Is we've got all of these different cultures within us. The American culture is not homogenous. It's influenced by every culture in the world, I think. Americans have never been great at originating things necessarily, but we're pretty good at making them work well. And we made a big mixed culture work pretty well.
It's an experiment. We made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah, we made a lot of mistakes. We treated a lot of groups badly, but we did good.
We did good. Overall, I would agree. We did good.
And I mean, as far as the culture and the society that I'm speaking to you from now, we've got a long way to go, but we've got Star Trek to aspire towards as well.
Josh Trex adds in chat, not that's not all. Gene Roddenberry, he says, was shot down by the Japanese as a Navy pilot in World War II.
That's nothing. Gene Roddenberry has like crashed planes like several times. So
He's like the Star Trek version of Launchpad McQuack.
he's like the Star Trek version of Diana Troy, maybe.
Oh wow!
Too soon, bro.
Oh, wow.
Too soon.
Well, speaking of which, though, initially though he did pitch the idea that a first officer was going to be a woman, and in the pilot they hinted at that.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but the CBS
number
exec said, "Nah, nobody would buy that."
Absolutely, number one.
Yeah. In the pilot,
pilot.
Majel Roddenberry played the first officer. She was number 1.
Mm-hmm.
The original pilot.
Unfortunately, she didn't play it up to number 2 standards.
Oh,
Beep,
Oh.
beep once for yes and twice for no. Beep,
Yeah.
beep. Yes,
Wow.
yes.
So okay, let's move on before we get any deeper into that. Digging a deep hole there. Let's talk about science. We're at the science part of the show, science and space. And for those of you wondering, I just want to say one thing because there is this belief out there, and I'll call it a belief because that's what it is, that science is some kind of religion, that people believe in scientific things.
Science.
And I just want to point out that science is not a belief system. It's not a religion. You don't believe in science. What science is a methodology for testing. This is what science is. It's actually a way.
Challenge.
Yes, it's a methodology of testing. You have a hypothesis, you test it out, you observe the results, and then you come up with a theory. It's actually a little bit more than that, but the basic precept is to challenge everything.
It's
Ask
definitely
everything.
not a set core, it's not like a belief system. Kind of has some sort of static implication, like it doesn't change a lot over time. But even in my lifetime, like I've always been an enthusiast of astronomy. Even in my lifetime, what we believed and what we know about the solar system and about the stuff closest to us has radically changed. And
Hashtag rip Pluto.
yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, segueing into something else, you might have a 9th planet anyway, but
We're going to talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
first of all,
they've been talking about that since I was a kid.
well, actually, you know what, Odin? Let's put the 9th planet section just a little bit ahead of what you're going to be talking about.
Go
so
on, by
here's
all
the
means.
thing. A recent article, just very, very recently, some astronomers have said they have discovered a a Neptune-sized planet lurking pretty much outside of the Kuiper Belt.
With
And-
roughly a 15,000-year orbital period.
Yeah, exactly. It orbits from anywhere from 70 AU to 15,000 AU?
It's
Actually,
it's possibly another captured Oort cloud. Remember that they're theorizing it's
no,
a captured
it's
satellite.
no, it's not a captured asteroid, comet, or anything. They figure, oh yeah, they say it's Neptune size, so about 10 times the mass of the Earth. And the way they found it is actually it's a lot of mathematics and use of supercomputers to test things out. The article goes into a little bit more detail, and the link to the article will be in the show notes. But basically what they did is they looked at the orbits of certain Kuiper Belt objects, trans-Neptunian objects that are beyond the Kuiper Belt, such as Sedna and several others. And they basically found or discovered that in order for these objects to have the orbits that they do, there has to be a planet with a rough orbit. They've already discovered what the orbit is roughly, and a certain mass. that has to be there in order to perturb them. So they've done the calculations, and some third-party scientists, mathematicians have looked at the calculations, and their basic reaction was, "Oh shit."
Well, okay, so I remember the article now, and there's a quote in the article that says something like, "No, we understand that people have been saying this for years, but really we're right this time." The difference is this time we're right is a quote from the article. So they must really believe it.
Yeah, it's mathematically it's an elliptical orbit about 15,000 years to orbit the sun. It goes from about 70 AU to 15,000 AU approximately. And they actually have some telescopes pointed in the direction where they think it's going to be at the moment, so hopefully they'll catch a view of it. Probably not going to see it from this distance. Even though it's like 10 times the size of the Earth, it's still at 15,000 AU. It's not going to be very visible at all. But it is a fascinating article, and I recommend you to take a read into that.
Also, for those who are early risers, in the sunrise, you'll be able to see Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter across the ecliptic. You get to see all 5 of those nice planets right there, rising right before the sun. And you can get to enjoy that once a decade moment where you get to see all of those planets there and enjoy their beauty. So if you're an amateur astronomer, or even if you just want to go outside early morning and see something that you don't get to see but probably about once a decade, enjoy it. It's
You
right
you
up there
realize
for you.
that any psychics born tomorrow are just never going to let anyone else forget that, right?
You know what? Let the psychics have their fun time with it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
I was born at the moment the 5 planets aligned.
Oh, something like that, right? Let's see. What else did we have on here beforehand? Oh, there was a little bit of a discussion beforehand on Reddit where they were having this talk about warp drive and how things would look inside and outside of this warp field. So if you're in the ship, like you see on Enterprise, on Star Trek: The Next Generation, where you see the stars moving by and you see them stretched across in a spectrum. People were wondering how this would this actually be real, or did the visual FX guys stretch the truth a lot, or just foobarred it? And also, what would happen if a ship actually came close to a black hole? So, knowing a little bit about Alcubierre's warp theorem and how it actually works, and a little bit about black holes that I've done research on since I was a kid, it kind of put both of them together and say, okay, well, according to Alcubierre's theorem, all it's doing is literally wrapping space in a warp field. And he was actually inspired by Star Trek, and then went over and did the math, and based off of general and special relativity, using the tensor field equations, came up with his warp field theorem. And so far, everybody's looked at this thing and said, damn, he's got a warp field theorem that can actually move an object faster than the speed of light without violating any laws of physics. And it was just, boom, blew people's minds. This was back in the 90s. We have NASA working on faster than light travel now, and they've even started to open the doors over to other researchers to try and collaborate on their research. Some of them using Alcubierre's warp field theorems. Well, anyway, back to the Reddit topic on this. We discussed what would happen with a starship if it came close to a black hole while it was traveling at warp speed. And the short answer is, it would be just as if it entered a black hole while it was in sublight speeds. It would follow the curvature of space-time, because all the warp field is doing is compressing space-time in front of it and then expanding it in the back of it. and the space inside of the warp field would just be like normal space. So you could technically do an EVA while your ship is traveling at warp speed and not have to worry about trying to keep up with your ship when you leave it, because the space around inside that warp field is moving along with the ship. So
Well, yeah,
you're
that's
there.
why photon torpedoes use warp sustainer engines. They actually carry call it an induced charge or whatever you want to call it from the ship's warp field in order for them to travel at warp. They don't have their own engines.
Exactly, and you are correct, sir. They would actually be able to, on this theoretical model, if we can actually devise a device that we could shoot outside of this warp field, it would either induce a warp field of its own based off of the warp field that the main ship creates, or it'll pinch off a piece of that warp field and fly off with it. That way it could traverse normal space, then through the warp space, and then into normal space again at that faster than light's velocity. Whereas you can't do that with an energy weapon because it will either get stretched out or get compressed in that space-time and become more or less ineffective. But I don't have the higher order calculus in order to be able to calculate what the loss of energy would be at that point in time. Regardless, the thread's there. We're going to post that up on it and everything should be good.
Very, very interesting. Now, I thought that the Star Trek warp was a little bit different from Alcubierre's drive. I mean, it's the same basic idea. The Alcubierre theory, though, we actually stay in our own universe. Whereas in Star Trek, the warp drive, you actually enter subspace.
You enter the subspace domain, right?
The fields actually are generated from normal space into subspace, but they in effect do the same thing. Whereas when they go into subspace, they're actually reducing the overall mass inside that field. Within the Alcubierre's theorem, you don't need to have a mass reduction in order to be able to use a lot of energy to be able to push that
also we
object in space in it.
We still frankly lack a grand unified field theory, so our understanding of physics could change again significantly to accommodate just about any warp theory we'd care to devise.
This is true. I mean, you got the quantum mechanics guys who are saying, you know what, Einstein's wrong about this. Classic gravitational mechanics
of the grand unified field theory. We might never actually see one.
Well, I think we will. I mean, we all understand there's a relationship between all the fundamental forces. I think what the quantum guys, and this is, again, I'm speaking out of ignorance here. I am not a field theorist.
I'm not even close to a scientist.
But I'm not a field theorist. I'm not a quantum mechanic student of any shape or thought. But we are trying to treat gravity as a force, where, according to Einstein, and before him Newton alluded a little bit to this, gravity is just the effect of space-time being curved, is being influenced by a concentration of energy or mass.
Concentration of mass, yeah.
Right. Well, concentration of energy confined to a finite space would be mass at that point.
Because that's how they tend to illustrate space-time, as everyone's heard of the thin rubber sheet and the ball bearings.
Right. You know what? I'm actually going to link another video in there which will illustrate in 2 dimensions how space-time would work. And then for those folks who
curves with mass and things like that. Go ahead.
Exactly. Sorry. And the professor on this actually goes to demonstrate how an early solar system could form, and even though we have different collisions going on chaotically, eventually they would all even out and everything would start revolving around the sun in an orderly pattern. So even a chaotic formation of collisions eventually would look ordered over a long period of time.
It's really
I've seen that. That's actually quite neat.
Useful and nice to see the concept of a gravity well actually illustrated. You know, that's what made it click for me at a young age. To really understand gravity was to see that type of video. I think for me it was a book and an illustration, but it's the exact same concept.
But here's something we actually have to thank Star Trek for. I mean, we've heard the stories beforehand about how a lot of scientists, engineers, teachers, people look to this and say, you know what, I want to make a society that resembles Star Trek, that gives humanity hope. And the best way they're trying to do that is with technology, or teaching others how to be more technologically minded and scientifically literate. Here's something that is literally tangible that we could possibly use in our near future to be able to traverse the stars. And people are throwing real money at it and saying, damn, this is our best shot. Let's do it. It's real. It's happening here.
Come on, man. You're gonna say it's real and not make me think
It's
of the
real!
There we go.
I knew it.
There you go. There's the Cisco.
All right, due to the
Sorry, dude, you
showtime,
can't even say that word around me anymore.
it's real!
Hey, now, hold on a sec. There was this thing I read a while back. This might actually been like a couple of years ago, which a couple of people theorized there might be a specific problem with the Alcubierre device that you wouldn't want to actually use it to for faster than light travel. I think they theorized, or hypothesized, I should say, that the energy required to go faster than light is not actually lost. So let's say, for example,
yeah. So the destination would get an intense gamma ray burst.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
I remember that one. That's
Basically,
a good one.
Yeah, if you're approaching a star system, you're going faster than light, and you want to drop out of FTL, to actually approach the planet. All that energy that was moving you faster than light gets basically turned into a gamma ray burst and basically sterilize the system you're traveling to.
On my sides, you could totally visit Risa, but only once.
Now, you know what? We're going to go into that later on. We might actually have to start our own spin-off series on this, probably the Amateur Scientist podcast or something.
I'm less qualified than amateur. What's less than that?
Come on as a guest, give us a layman's terms of what you all think
James
about
Webb,
this.
baby.
Yeah, shoot. You know what? We'll save James Webb for later on. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. We got plenty of stuff to discuss next week that we didn't get a chance to go in on this one here. Not only because we didn't want to... patch notes. Patch notes are pretty much... We already discussed the patch notes. We rolled it in with everything else. The triple patch notes, we're going to save that for another time. And there's a good reason why. Because I want people to play it on Tribble. Yes, that means you have to repatch again. Go ahead and do it.
Gross.
And then I want you all to come back, and then you get to hear the full Cisco rant. So, on behalf of everybody on the show, have a good night. Play the game. Try not to lag out too much. Hopefully the server infrastructure, the extended maintenance will give us all a good time in playing the game. Less lag, hopefully no lag whatsoever. And patch up Tribble, because you're going to experience the full Cisco. But I want you to understand 100% why I'm about to go to full Cisco on this. I will see you all in game. Mr. Worf, please fire the damn torpedoes. Good night.
Good
night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.